The Geography of Survival, a comparative study of the ultimate logistical chains. Chapter 2, Logistics, the Calories of Civilization. Act 1, The Hook. The journey of human survival begins not in a verdant, rain-swept agricultural field, but within the blinding, metallic glare of the Arabian Peninsula. Deep within the sprawling industrial complexes of the Persian Gulf, such as the massive Ras Al Khaimah facility in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the ambient environment is overwhelming to the human senses. The atmosphere is dominated by a deafening roar of high-frequency compressors, the rhythmic thumping of heavy machinery, and the ever-present scent of sulfur and industrial exhaust. Here, in an environment of blistering desert heat and towering steel infrastructure, the fundamental alchemy of the modern age takes place. Beneath the sun-baked earth lies the essential feedstock of contemporary human civilization: massive, subterranean reservoirs of natural gas. This gas is not merely a fuel intended for simple combustion. It is the vital raw material required to construct the very building blocks of the global food supply. The natural gas is drawn violently from the earth, rigorously purified, and channeled into the cavernous, high-pressure cathedrals of ammonia synthesis plants. It is within these industrial cathedrals that the Haber-Bosch process occurs, an engineering miracle that has, in a very literal sense, allowed humanity to turn invisible gas into solid bread. The natural world guards its resources jealously. Atmospheric nitrogen, while incredibly abundant, exists as a stubborn molecule tightly bound by a triple covalent bond, rendering it completely useless to plants in its natural, airborne state. To break this unbreakable bond, the nitrogen must be subjected to an environment of unimaginable violence. It is introduced to pure hydrogen gas, which is stripped directly from the natural gas feedstock through steam reforming. These two gases are then forced into a continuous synthesis loop under terrifying mechanical conditions. The pressure within the reaction vessels is raised to anywhere between 200 and 400 atmospheres, while the internal temperatures are pushed to soaring heights, ranging from 400 to 650 degrees Celsius. Only under these extreme, artificial conditions, and only in the presence of a specially promoted iron-based catalyst, do the nitrogen and hydrogen elements finally surrender and fuse together to become liquid ammonia. This ammonia is the chemical soul of urea, the white, crystalline pellet that serves as the primary nitrogen fertilizer for the modern agricultural world. Without this synthetic, high-pressure injection of nitrogen, the genetically modified, high-yield seeds of the global agricultural system would simply wither and die in tired soil. The stark biological reality is that we are a civilization built entirely on synthetic nitrogen, and a staggering percentage of that life-giving nitrogen is geographically trapped behind a narrow maritime gate. Once the urea is crystallized and stabilized, the white pellets are loaded into the cavernous holds of massive bulk carrier ships currently docked in the deepwater ports of Oman, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. These colossal vessels, riding perilously low in the water under the immense weight of thousands of tons of synthetic life, must begin their global journey by navigating the treacherous waters of the Strait of Hormuz. The strait represents a terrifying maritime bottleneck, connecting the energy-rich Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman, the Arabian Sea, and the wider Indian Ocean. At its absolute narrowest point, the territorial waters of the adjacent nations overlap entirely between the Iranian island of Larak to the north and the Omani island of Great Quoin to the south, leaving a navigable choke point that is a mere 21 nautical miles wide. Every single drop of maritime fuel and every single pellet of life-sustaining fertilizer that passes through this geographical needle's eye is entirely at the mercy of regional political stability. When armed conflict or geopolitical tension erupts in the Middle East, this fragile umbilical cord of global civilization is invariably the first to sever. The proximate crisis usually begins with a single, localized disruption. This might manifest as a drone strike on a commercial tanker, the clandestine laying of naval mines in the shipping lanes, or the sudden implementation of a strict military blockade by a coastal state. The immediate, cascading consequence of such an event is not merely a rapid rise in the cost of household energy, but the absolute paralysis of the entire global agricultural supply chain. Maritime insurance premiums for any vessel daring to traverse the strait immediately skyrocket to prohibitive, astronomical levels, causing a near-complete and instantaneous halt to commercial shipping traffic. Within a matter of days, the effective closure of this vital waterway physically traps approximately one-third of the total global seaborne trade in fertilizers. The blockage chokes off 38% of the world's nitrate-based fertilizer supplies, 20% of its phosphate-based fertilizers, and roughly 30% of all globally traded ammonia-based nitrogen. The timing of such a maritime disruption is frequently catastrophic, as global agriculture operates on strict, unforgiving biological schedules. In the Northern Hemisphere, the critical spring planting season presents a narrow window spanning the months of March and April. Farmers across the globe must place their bulk orders for fertilizer many weeks in advance, ensuring that barges have sufficient time to navigate inland river systems and deliver the vital nutrients long before the soil is turned. There is absolutely no strategic reserve for fertilizer in the United States or anywhere else in the world. The entire agricultural industry operates on a terrifyingly fragile, just-in-time delivery model that leaves no margin for error. A single maritime delay of just 30 days in the Strait of Hormuz dictates that the fertilizer will arrive only after the crucial planting window has permanently closed, irreparably reducing the harvest yield for the entire calendar year. The ripple effects of this singular geographical delay cascade across the planet with devastating speed and unparalleled severity. Thousands of miles away, in the agricultural heartland of Uttar Pradesh, India, a farmer named Anil Kumar stands in his sun-baked field, nervously crumbling a clod of dry earth between his calloused fingers. To him, the soil beneath his feet is not simply dirt. It is a vital balance sheet, representing his daughter's future wedding fund and his son's educational fees. His entire livelihood and the survival of his family depends exclusively on the timely arrival of those white, crystalline pellets of urea. India currently imports nearly 30% of its massive annual urea requirement, binding the biological reality of its national food security directly and inextricably to the volatile geopolitics of the Persian Gulf. When the Strait of Hormuz is closed, the white pellets do not arrive, the soil remains barren, and the seeds inevitably starve. This catastrophic interdependency is mirrored across the oceans. In the vast agricultural expanses of Brazil, farmers wait with equal desperation for the exact same Middle Eastern nitrogen to fertilize their massive soybean crops. Because global agricultural markets are so deeply interconnected, a shortage of Brazilian soybeans directly translates into a severe shortage of livestock feed in both China and Europe, which in turn drives up the cost of meat, dairy, and poultry on a planetary scale. Furthermore, as the benchmark price of natural gas doubles due to the exact same maritime blockade, the secondary effects ravage other producing nations. Deprived of their affordable natural gas imports from Qatar, major fertilizer synthesis plants in India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan are forced to completely shut down their domestic production lines. Similarly, producing plants in Egypt are forced to abandon production or pay exorbitant prices for liquefied natural gas, further restricting the global supply. The immediate economic panic is staggering. The benchmark price for urea, the most widely traded fertilizer on Earth, can easily surge by more than 30% in a single month as desperate nations panic and begin hoarding whatever meager supplies remain on the open market. In poorer regions of the globe, particularly across the African continent, and in vulnerable nations like Sri Lanka, the sudden absence of affordable fertilizer leads directly and predictably to massively decreased crop yields. A simple logistical delay in a narrow Middle Eastern waterway is thus alchemically transformed into an invisible, global breadline, plunging millions into food insecurity and creating the conditions for widespread famine. This is the terrifying, inescapable reality of the ultimate logistical chain. The physical survival of billions of human beings is inextricably linked to the safe, uninterrupted passage of a few dozen steel cargo ships through a highly contested strip of blue water. We have built an incredibly complex global society, yet we remain entirely dependent on a single, terrifying geographical vulnerability.